Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zaks Traders Cafe for Wednesday, the 5th of March. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which had a bit of a rug pull yesterday, but managed to rather mysteriously bounce at the old midline support line, which was previous resistance, now support, which is rather strange but helpful. That's around the 8750 level, and above that we're still looking for a move towards 9,000 for the FTSE as soon as the end of this month. You can see that line there, the top of the channel, the red line, actually at 90.40, so something even more exciting to look forward to. Worst case at the moment, we have to test the uptrend line there from January, 88.60, and the other point to note, I suppose, is that we've had an RSI rebound above neutral 50, which is the second one we've had now in the last couple of weeks, so that is promising nice things, even though that might seem a bit strange. Moving on to the DAX, and here also the attempted rug pull yesterday, which was actually a very negative candle, opened at the low, opened at the high, closed at the low practically, but good turnaround there. So situation still that we're looking for the top of that channel there. That's currently heading up to 23,500. That channel there from back in November. Hopefully, well, that was we sort of looking for that by the end of this month. Hopefully we'll get that rather sooner. On the downside, worst case is the floor of the channel, 22,100, or the worst case that we expect, which is also the floor of the gap there from earlier in February. RSI at 62, bounced at neutral 50, so that was a leading indicator on the upside, and hopefully that will have some follow through. The weakest link in the big three has been the Dow, but even here we've tried to have a bounce off the floor of that gap there from back in January, 42,500, and that's sort of where we were yesterday. Still the risk of a move down to the 200-day line, which we haven't been below for quite some time, since back in the end of October 2023. So it's a stunning move there for the Dow, whatever happens. On the upside, really need an end of day close back above the floor of the channel there, 42,000 or basically 43,000. And if you're fussy, actually an end of day close above the 50-day line, still falling at 43,600. The negative here is that we've had a perfect RSI 50 failure there, and that does mean that we might have to factor in that move towards the 200-day line and post October support here around 41,800. Moving on to Bitcoin, which had its day in the sun on the Trump news and then came back again, but very, very volatile. What's interesting here is we've had a double test of the 200-day line. So if you were there intraday looking at that chart, that was a perfect entry there, and it's a charting thing to do, or a technical analysis thing to do. Managed to avoid hitting the floor of the channel there at 80,000, but perhaps that is still a possibility. What we'd like to see is a return to being back in the range between 90,000 and the all-time high 109,000, and perhaps we'll get that decent close over 90,000 later today. Moving on to gold, and here there was a one-day wonder sell-off below 28.75, but that seems to be in the rear-view mirror now, above 28.75, looking for 3,020 by the end of this month, which is the top of that rising trend channel from February last year. Moving on to the stocks, and starting off with one which was a surprise winner last month, a very good winner in fact. What's interesting now is that we are finding support for Agronomics basically at the first target there, which was around 6.5 pence. Above 6.5 pence, still looking for 10 pence, the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base there from back in July. RSI's bounced above 50 for the second time in the last month, which is also a bit of a plus point. Only well below 6 pence now, really delaying the recovery scenario there. On to a stock which I haven't looked at for quite some time, and it's probably a shame given that we finally lost that support line there at 44 pence, which I suppose we were counting on holding above 44, looking for the top of the falling trend channel there from June last year up to 53 pence, but unfortunately with the end of day close on the 17th below that uptrend line there from June, that unleashed a downside to the floor, towards the floor of the falling trend channel. Worst case at the moment is we have to head down to 26 pence, but obviously you can see today we've had a bit of a rebound. The earliest real signal on a technical basis would be an end of day close back above the mid-February support at 39 pence, so that may come in as resistance now. And while we're below 39, we have the risk of a move to the mid-20s. Moving on to Borders and Southern, which I interviewed the other week. Here we got a rising trend channel, bounced off it yesterday, the floor of that channel from October. That's around 5 pence, above 5 pence, still looking for top of the channel there, up to 8 pence by the end of next month. Obviously, there's a lot of resistance up to 5 3/4 pence, so if you are cautious, you wait for that to be cleared. RSI's bounced off neutral 50, which is nice, and when accompanied by the bounce off the floor of the rising trend channel. On to a stock which is rather bigger than type of stock I normally look at, but the cupboard is rather bare at the moment in terms of technical setups. Here we have a bear trap island reversal. In fact, a double gap to the upside, a double unfill gap here. So this looks very strong in here. Indeed, looking at the top of that channel there, 314 pence, while we're above the top of the gap there, 253. So that maybe some people like that as a setup. We've had a double bounce off RSI 50 in the last couple of weeks, with the last one coming in yesterday. On to a stock which looks really good in the sense that we've had the unpull gap to the upside on Emmerson. I've obviously talked about that quite a lot. Ad nauseum, I think, is the probably the right word or right phrase. Here we hit our first target there, that target line, the top of that rising trend channel at 1.6 pence. It's up to 1.7 now. And above that line on an end-of-day close basis, looking for up to 2.6 pence. And the reason for the excitement here is that, one, we've had a gap close buy signal yesterday, around 1.6 pence, but the other thing is obviously the shares are rising on no recent news, which is something which is intriguing given the situation with the company and the Moroccan authorities. So let's see what happens there. But above 1.6, looking for 2.6 on Emmerson. Ferrexpo's next, and we'd had not only one rug pull and then a rally, but a second one, which is just amazing. What's interesting here, though, is that we are finding support near the 200-day line, so the message is kind of any dips towards that area or sub 70 pence have been buying opportunities, obviously be overshot on the downside on the first rug pull. Current situation is that above the 200-day line, we're looking for a return to 90 pence, but obviously this is quite a volatile situation. If you are cautious, probably wait for an end of the day close through 80 pence before assuming the worst is over. On to Great Southern Copper, where one can almost smell that there would be a fundraise given the vertical move for the shares, which is obviously highlighted here and commented at the weekend. What's brilliant about today's news, the fundraise, is that the company's raised £1.5 million, but the shares have actually gone up 10%, which is rather rare. Normally, one would really highlight stocks rise after a fundraise. 4.5 pence was the target here, while we were above around 3.1 pence, and it looks as though the shares are quite keen to head to that target. On to QinetiQ, which be very chuffed with the bear trap island reversal. In fact, two gaps to the upside towards the end of last month. Current situation is it looks as though we're heading towards that resistance line projection just shy of £5 and looking for that while we're above today's support at 460 on an end of day close basis. Finishing off with a company which I interviewed yesterday, Zenith Energy, and here shares edging up. They've got a line of resistance there from back in January. That's around 8.6 pence. So a break of that would hopefully then give the shares the momentum to head to the top of that channel there from back in November, as high as 16 pence by the end of next month. Ideally, the low of this month to date, around 6.75 pence, is the low on the latest move. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.